welcome those people who are watching either live or recorded on Facebook. Welcome to everybody that's joining us live on our Zoom meeting. I'm Brian Jacobs. This is London Vegans. We have our meetings the last Wednesday of the month, usually, and with a guest speaker. And it's my great pleasure to welcome as our guest speaker this evening, Heena Modi. Heena is going to be, well, let me say briefly, Heena is a plant-based nutritionist and advisor and coach. She's also written a cookery book. I'm sure she'll tell us about that in a short while. So without further ado, talking about optimal health and well-being on a plant-based diet, I'll hand over to Heena. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen. So just give me a sec. Oh, that's useful. Hold on. Okay. Is that okay, everyone? Can you see? Yeah? Okay, cool. So today what we're going to talk about is how to create optimum and physical, emotional well-being. So some of the things that I think will empower us to manage that is by reflecting, increasing our confidence, making conscious decisions rather than doing things kind of blindly, implementing positive changes, reducing duality. And by that, what I mean is like when we think one thing and we do a different thing. So that's the duality that I'm talking about, and increasing our peace of mind. So I'm going to get straight on with it. This is a bit of a generalization, but it's just something to kind of keep in mind. So what some people do is ignore everything, live fast, avoid silence, stay busy, stay distracted, and just don't really think about what might be happening in their mind or their body and the effect it might be having on them. Other people override the mind completely, just focus on the body in terms of exercise, food, socializing, that kind of sensual pleasure, that kind of stuff. Then there are groups of people who ignore the body, ignore any telltale signs, just persist, keep going, you know, just don't stop and kind of take stock. And then you've got people who just surrender. So surrender everything to a higher being, take no or little responsibility in their own striving to achieve change. Oh, if it's going to happen, it will happen. Or, you know, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And then you've got people who focus on everyone else's lives, their problems, their needs, their wants, their desires, their everything, and not me and myself, but everyone else. And then you've got people who just learning galore, as I've put it, so course after course, but not necessarily applying it. You've got people who strive for balance. And then, as I said, this was a bit of a generalization. So most of us are a mixture of all of the above or some of the above. So, for example, if it's something to do with the body, we might take action quickly, notice quickly, do something about it. But when it's to do with something else, we don't. So it's not necessary that we just fit into this box and where, you know, we act accordingly all the time, consistently. We're normally a mix and match of different things. So we don't follow one pattern for everything. But it's just the point of going through this is to give you a general idea of how we might behave, how others might behave, and give us a few things to look out for. So where does veganism fit into any of this? It encompasses loads of things, and it can have an impact on the following things as well as other things that are not included. So the mind, the body, looking beyond ourselves, taking responsibility, being empowered and implementing changes, embracing and accepting instead of ignoring, changing our perception of how to feel content. So for example, by that I mean, just because that might be a bit vague, so let me explain that. So it might be that we think, okay, I can live contently if I have, I don't know, $10,000 in the bank and a mansion, and I don't know, I'm a size 8. And then it's like, oh no, hang on, I don't need to be a size 8 to be happy and to feel content. I don't need a mansion, and I don't need whatever else I said in the bank. So, you know, kind of changing our perception of what we actually need to be happy and content. Cultivating discipline, better understanding of our limits, and that ties in with the first slide about prompting reflection, because that's what will help us understand what our limits are. Embracing minimalism, which I love, cultivating balance, and empowering ourselves. So hopefully you'll see these things coming through as we talk further. So Veganuary, I'm pretty sure everyone here knows about Veganuary, but just in case you don't, it's a campaign to encourage people to go vegan in January. So vegan in January makes Veganuary. It has been positively contagious look, you can see between 2015 and 2021, I haven't got the stats for this year, but see how it's grown hugely. It's absolutely amazing. So yeah, that's just great news. Why is it so contagious? So people go vegan or plant-based for multiple reasons. Some of them include because they've got intolerances or allergies, which they may have known about, but have now got a bit out of hand, so they're now going vegan or plant-based to help that, or they might be new intolerances or allergies. Could be to do with weight loss or weight gain, the planet, the environment, faith. There are quite a number of religions that actually talk about veganism, so yeah, that's quite interesting. Could be to do with eating clean, could be to do with performance and recovery, so performance in terms of sport, recovery in terms of health, or after having an operation or something like that. Preventing or improving health, feminism. There's a connection between feminism and going vegan. Animal welfare, which is one that many of us would be aware of. I've said allergies and intolerances twice, never mind. Minimalism, reducing the negative input in our mind and body. I'll touch on that more later. And I've got peace of mind, and reducing the duality that I mentioned earlier by increasing the alignment and harmony between our thoughts and behavior. So if you imagine if there's conflict going on in our mind and between our mind and our action, then that's going to cause some sort of stress and some sort of misalignment and lack of harmony. So by reducing that duality, that will help us greatly. So the thing we're talking about today, optimum physical and emotional well-being. So what we're going to focus on, what's important for a healthy body and mind. And it definitely is in our power. It's possible for us to achieve it. I strongly believe that we should enjoy food. We should make it work for us. We shouldn't eat and suffer reactions because of intolerances or because of comfort eating, to soothe the mind, which then plagues the body. Or we should avoid under eating and then not functioning because we haven't got the nutrients we need. We should also think about not eating foods that deplete us, or eating things that don't give us enough of the positive foods that we need. And all of this is something that we can remedy without losing the enjoyment of eating. Also, all of these things, depending on which of those examples we go for, or the ones that we follow, affect our mood, and they affect how well we feel. They also affect how motivated we are. So as you can get a sense, if you don't already, what we eat, what we do, all of that has a huge impact on the mind, the body, everything. So it's just really important, and it shouldn't be scary. It's something that we all have the power to achieve, and we can do it. And it's not, you don't have to be monitoring what you eat 24/7 in order to achieve it. Okay, so the triad of good health and well-being. So if the body is given the right fuel and the right conditions, it's empowered to heal itself. It can regenerate, rejuvenate, and rebuild. Also, the immune system will be powerful enough to defend the body against invaders, which, we've all been hearing about the immune system with COVID over the last 2 years. So that's probably more at the forefront of our mind than possibly other things. But for all of that to happen, we need the mind, body, and the spirit to be at their best. So if you imagine there's a car and you put the right fuel in it, it's going to run well, it's going to get you from A to B, and everything's going to be fine. You put the wrong fuel in it, it's going to start off with a minor issue, a bit of a spluttering and a this and that, and then it's going to just stop and it's going to kill the engine depending on how quickly we act. So in the same way, depending on the frequency of the wrongful fuel that we are consuming, that is going to determine the effect it has on the body, whether they're minor blips here and there or whether it turns into something bigger. That also, combined with the state of the body before we started taking the wrong fuel, is going to impact how quickly the impact could occur, and also how to what degree. Okay, so there's this thing which I call sedace. I don't think the pronunciation, or whether you say SDACE, whether it matters or not, but let's just go with sedace. So I'm going to go through the D and the A and the C and the E first, and this is all about improving our physical health and well-being. So the D stands for digestion. As you can see here, we eat, the food is broken down, and the reason it's broken down is so that it can be absorbed, the bits we need, and the bits we don't need can be removed. So for good health, we need to manage our digestion. Quite simple, I think. The A stands for absorption. So once the food is broken down, we can absorb it, the nutrients go into the cells, and we get everything we need for the body to function really well. Again, something that takes care of itself. We don't need to really focus on it, other than eating well, but yeah. Okay, and the C stands for circulation. So the circulation enables the blood to transport, or it means that the blood transports the absorbed nutrients to the cells, which are all over the body, and do their work so they can heal and regenerate. And the E is for the elimination. So everything that we don't need is then excreted, so that the body can function at its best. So this is the bit where I've put get ready to post in the chat box. So if you can go to the chat box, and I think it will give you the option, we tested it before, so we think it gives you the option of writing to Brian or myself, but not both. So if you can choose me, and can you please tell me what you think the S in sedace stands for? Okay, I've got one. Don't be shy. No one else can see your messages, by the way, just me. So I've got select from one person. Give it a few more seconds. System, okay.
I can't see this chat box.
Oh, Brian, can you help with that?
If you're on a PC or laptop, at the bottom of the screen, I already sent a message. You should be able just to respond where you've got the message. Okay, if you're on a tablet or phone, I don't know where it will be shown, unfortunately.
It's an iPad.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't help you with that.
It's at the top, where there's the 3 dots.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you click on it, and then there's chat.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, you could just remove, please. Someone's wrote to me as a message that says, I've got sugar and synergy.
Okay, cool.
And so I haven't got a clue, I'm afraid, by myself.
That's fine. And so far I've got select, system, satisfaction, simple, equilibrium, synergy, and then Brian, what did you say again? I've forgotten already.
Well, they said sugar.
Sugar.
I think it's sugar.
Yeah.
Synergy, sugar, and stasis.
Okay, cool, perfect. All right, I will feel free to carry on writing, but I'm going to carry on. So the S actually stands for stress.
Ah.
So what I'd like you to do is just have a, actually, do you know what? Let's just go with the chat. So if you're still in the chat box, please stay there. And if you're not, please go back to it. Could you just put why if you think stress affects digestion? And If you think it doesn't, put no. And if you're not sure, put a question mark. Or do you know what we could do? Oh, yeah, here we go. Chat. Okay. Absolutely. Okay. Yes.
Anna just said, could you please repeat the question?
Yes, absolutely. So if you think stress can affect digestion, can you put yes? And if you think it doesn't, put no. And if you're not sure, put a question mark. Yeah. Oh, wonderful. So I've got absolutely yes, muscles are tighter when stressed. Stress influences digestion negatively. Stress affects digestion as you feel knotted up. Yes, yes, affects stomach acid. Stress affects organs and physically causes tension in the body. Absorption and microflora, wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to ask you the next question. Can you do the same? Yes, no, Y, N, or question mark for if you think stress affects absorption, which we talked about absorbing the nutrients. So one person's already put absorption and microflora. Someone else has said yes. Yes again, possibly. Sure, yes. Question mark, cool. I'm gonna wait for one more.
Coming through to me as well.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, cool. All right, okay, go to the, oh, not sure, wonderful. And the next question is, do you think stress can affect circulation? So the circulation is when the nutrients are taken to the cells all over the body. Yes, 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 of course. Okay, cool, wonderful. And the last one, oh, most likely, not sure. Okay, definitely, cool. The last question is, do you think stress can affect elimination? So the excretion part. Yes, question mark, or no, or why, or no, or whatever you want to put. Yes, 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 yes. Oh, yes, constipation, yeah.
Yeah, we've got a few yeses at this end as well.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Wonderful. So I am really pleased with how honest everyone's been. I love the fact that we had some not sures and we had some question marks, and yeah, really great. So thank you for that. So the consequences of stress, we're going to talk about it now. Stress, fear, worry, anxiety, not feeling content, so many other things as well can cause many things. For example, excess of or not enough stomach acid, which would then affect the breaking down the food, the digestion, and then everything else would follow. It also can inhibit secretions of mucus, which protects the stomach, and I don't like this word, I can't say it properly, duodenal wall from hydrochloric acid, so that can result in ulcers. It can suppress the immune system. It can cause issues with sleep, and many, many more things. So all these things are going to then affect our mood and our mental health. So you can see now how it all ties together and is very, very connected. So stress and the choices we make of things we eat. So I've written here, grab a piece of paper or your phone or whatever, just to make some notes for yourself. This isn't, there's no pressure, you're not sharing it with anyone. You can share it with me if you want to, but this is more just a kind of the self-reflection exercise. So can you think about, when you're stressed, what you eat or drink, if there's anything different to what you normally eat or drink? I'm going to give you about 11 seconds just to have a think about it and make a note. And feel free to put something in the chat if you want to. Okay, so while you're thinking, the next part of the question is how you feel after you've eaten or drank those things. Yeah. So someone's written that they either, I'm not going to share names, so the privacy is still there. They either eat too much or too little when they're stressed. Someone said they tend to have things that contain sugar nowadays. Neither makes them feel good. it feels good, but later they have a slump. Very interesting. Thank you for sharing. Really appreciate it. Quick, easy process things. Okay.
You've got a couple of people responding saying they eat a lot of chocolate.
Yes, cool. So I've just got a message saying high sugar or carbs, chocolate and or alcohol, and then feeling awful. Wonderful. Oh, thanks, guys. You're amazing for being so honest. Thank you. So again, just make notes for yourself so that you can look back and think about this after. So pick me up. So some of the people who messaged me in the chat and then I read them out, these are some of the things that they touched on. So pick me up. So basically, often when we feel stressed, we will reach out to a food or a drink or multiple foods or drinks to pick us up and get us out of that low mood or that low feeling. And some of them will give us an instant high. Some of them will have a not necessarily instant, a bit of a slower high, but ultimately, what goes up must come down, like in the wallpaper advert many years ago. And I mean, I'm laughing at the joke but it's not funny, obviously, because what happens is we reach out to those things to pick ourselves up. We then crash or slump or fall or whatever, and then we want that feeling again. So we do it again. So it's just on repeat. And if we get into a cycle of doing that, that can be really, really difficult. And it actually just sounds very much like a drug addiction, doesn't it? Like when you get that high from whatever it is, whether it's alcohol or whether it's smoking or whether it's something else like heroin or whatever, and you have that high and then you fall and then you need it again to get that same feeling that you wanted. So we do the same thing to ourselves, but with a legal thing, which is food and drink. Some people don't eat when they're upset. They actually either feel sick and they can't eat, or they it might be to do with control, that the only thing I can control is what I eat, everything else is pants and I can't control it, I can't fix it. So they resort to controlling themselves and what they eat, and that ends up meaning that they don't eat or drink the normal amount that they would. And others can overeat. Either isn't great for the body because we need that balance. And also we talked about, choosing things that aren't great for you. So yeah, so we've talked about that now. So I would like you to think about if you can spot a connection. So thinking back to the food and the drink that you usually have, and thinking back also to those you may avoid. But then if there's certain foods you avoid, do you actually go to them when you feel stressed? And if there's certain foods you usually have, do you drop them when you feel stressed, or do you increase either of them? And how it affects your mood. So I'm just going to give you a few seconds to think about that, about how it affects your mood specifically. Yeah. Okay, I've had a message saying they regret their choice and they feel foolish. And chocolate or alcohol and then feel awful. Okay. Something I forgot to mention is caffeine. So one example of this crashing and falling is often connected to caffeine. So if you feel you can't function unless you have caffeine, or unless you have something sugary throughout the day, what happens if you don't get your hands on it? Like if you go somewhere and they haven't got caffeinated coffee or caffeinated tea, or they haven't got something sugary, or you're out and about and you didn't take something with you and you can't get your hands on some, and you're beginning to crash, what happens when you don't get what you need or what you feel you need? Just have a think about that. It's just for you to recognize how it affects you. Okay, so the next thing I want to ask you about is physical stresses. So again, get ready for the chat box, please. If you think if you think food can create a physical stress on the body, please put yes. If you think it can't, please put no. And if you're not sure, feel free to put a question mark. So can food create a physical stress on the body? Okay, so I've got must have a coffee at least in the morning. I started to drink an oat or soya latte, soya or oat latte to keep me alert after many years of avoiding caffeine, and it keeps me awake, but it's only temporary. So yeah, then you feel sleepy after. And in terms of food creating a physical impact, I've got yes and yes and yes and yes and yes. Oh, many yeses. And then another one, which is yes, too much or too little is bad. Fatty foods can cause stress. Okay, cool. Oh, there was one more, I missed it. Hang on. No, I didn't. Okay, wonderful. So yes, it can create physical stress on the body. So for example, sugar, caffeine, foods that are salty, foods that are oily, and foods that are fatty create a direct physical stress on the internal organs in the body. And the reason that's important is because those internal organs are needed to detoxify the body. So yeah, if we put a strain on those organs, then it can't do the work it needs to do, and it's then overworked, or it takes longer, or whatever, something, basically there'll be a consequence. Also, these foods stimulate us, and we already talked about the crash and the fall. So they stimulate us and they cause an imbalance in our emotional state. So not just physical, but emotional. Again, you see the connection. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay, so now exercise. So can physical exercise, or exercise full stop really, cause a physical stress that's unbeneficial? So it's a very, very specific question. So can exercise cause physical stress that is not good for the body? Again, yes, no, question marks. Yes, someone said. Another yes. Too much of anything is bad. Yes, yes, if it's too much exercise. Yes, straining muscles. Yes, marathon running. Okay, so yes, physical stress in the form of over-exercising can deplete the body. So it's not just that it can cause an injury and can tire you out. It can also basically deplete the body. So gentle exercise, which is slowly built up, is the best way to go. So if right now you're not doing anything apart from maybe walking around your home, suddenly then starting running is not going to be good for you. So you need to build it up to walking outside or somewhere, but for longer, and then maybe jogging, and then maybe running or whatever, but not suddenly changing the level of movement you have, because that can harm you. By doing this kind of graded exercise or slowly building it up, it will help the body, it will help the mind, because exercise is wonderful and definitely good for the mind. So I'm not in any way saying we shouldn't do it. I'm just saying we shouldn't make a jump from whatever level we're at to another level too quickly. And all of that will also, by the way, the exercise will have a positive impact, not just on our body and our mind, but also on our sleeping patterns. So it's a really good thing. So another bit on the chat, can you tell me if you think all stress is bad for us? So yes, if you think all stress is bad, no if you think it's not, and question mark if you're not sure. No, we need some stress. No. Okay, cool. Most people are no's. A little is good. Okay, so yes, you're right. Stress can be positive. It's the continual long-term excessive stress which is the concern. And what happens is, when we are in a constant state of stress, the physical reactions that we have to stressful situation remains active. So our yeah, our stress reactions don't turn off, our coping mechanisms and all the rest of it, they stay active. So the body is then overloaded with hormones. There's then more demands on an already strained liver. And even if we then try and reduce our stress levels, it's like the body doesn't recognize it because it's got a new level of normal, which is being stressed all the time. So that's a reason why a bit of stress here and there is fine, but regular stress is not, and we'd need to get some help for that, some professional help to help us fix that. I realize the time and I'm just thinking, so I've gone into a bit of detail in the next few slides about food that is good for us. So I'm going to be a bit speedy and let me know if it's too speedy, okay? So food, what food to avoid and what to embrace, okay? So we have, if we're eating processed, low quality food, it deprives the body of what it needs and it gives the body another job to do. So it's basically you're making the body work to eliminate all this heavy, fibrous, not nutritious food. So you're working the body, but you're not giving it the nutrients it needs. So you deplete it. So your energy is zapped, your energy is diverted, the immune system is deprived of energy. And as a result of that, we would feel awful, right? Horrible, tired, unhealthy. So we need to make sure we make good choices with food. So we need to eat food that gives us enough roughage to help our bowel movements become regular or be regular or continue to be regular. The reason we need that is because the amount of fiber we have in our system affects the transit time, and refined food lacks fiber. So what happens is your bowel becomes clogged, the toxins and the waste, instead of being transited out, they stay there and they actually come back into the body and they get reabsorbed. So obviously we don't want that. So that's why we need to make sure we have fiber. Carbs. So carbs are great for producing heat and energy. They're reduced to simple sugars, which is good for the brain and the nervous tissues and muscles and all sorts of things. But if we have too much, the excess is converted and stored as fat, converted into fat and stored. So we don't want too much of that. Refined carbohydrates. So I touched on it earlier that it's fibrous. It also lacks many of the B vitamins, vitamin E and minerals. So refined carbohydrates such as sugar, syrups, polished foods like white rice, white pasta, flour that isn't 100% stone ground, instant grains, instant rice, powdered starch, commercial bread, refined pasta I covered already, and most snacks, they are unfortunately fiberless, all the things I mentioned up here in the slide, and also they're valueless, they are indigestible, they constipate us, and they affect the whole transit time, which I covered earlier. So what we need is an abundance of complex carbohydrates, for example, raw fruit and vegetables. If you have hypoglycemia or candida, then it's worth getting guidance about how much fruit and veg you should eat because it can affect those health conditions. Protein. So there's a lot of talk about protein, especially for vegans, like, oh, you're not getting enough protein, you're going to be this and you're going to get ill. It's actually worth knowing that an excess of protein leads to acidic conditions, an excess of urea in the tissues, and it can cause many inflammatory conditions. However, insufficient protein means we won't have enough energy, we'll have poor stamina, we'll have insufficient resistance to infection, as well as weakness, depression, slow healing, slow recovery, all of that can be affected. So there is like an equation of how much protein we should consume based on our weight. I can send that to Brian later and he can share that with you if that's helpful. Going into it now, I don't think it'll be that helpful. While we're talking about protein, I just wanted to show you all these vegan athletes, but I'm not going to get into that now because of the time. But you can see, like, it's not a problem to be athletic or sporty whilst being vegan. Okay, so oil. A lot of people think all oil is awful and other people think, no, it's fine and it's not an issue, and there's like a mixed bag. So Oil, if we can, we should avoid it. The reason we should avoid it in cooking is because we get oil through other foods, through nuts and avocados and all sorts of things. So adding it to our oil is not particularly great. Well, adding it to our oil, I meant to our cooking, sorry. What happens is, if we fry food in particular, it negatively changes the molecular structure of the food. So that's not good for us. If you have to use oil in cooking, use a little bit, and maybe use those spray oils. So they're like 1 calorie per spray, and you know, it's a little bit, so it's not, yeah, it's reducing it basically. And cook it on a low temperature, so that will avoid the molecular structure of the food changing too much. It would be better to saute, fry quickly food using water or tomato juice instead of oil. I know that sounds weird, but it's perfectly fine. I basically don't use oil in cooking anymore, and I have no issues with it. And I've had guests over and they haven't noticed, and they haven't been negatively commenting on the food, so that's good. Also, you could grill, steam, or bake. But one thing I would like to really stress is not to use oil to fry and then let it cool down, save it, and use it again. Use it once and chuck it. And that is so wasteful. And I really don't like being wasteful, but that's better for you than reusing it. And of course, the better option is not to use it. So some of the things that we need to try and get in our diet are these. So brown rice, wholemeal pasta, fruit, vegetables, whole grains, dried beans and lentils, nuts, all those kinds of things are going to be really good for us. And then our mood, physical health and our mood. Water. Okay, so there are some people who say, oh no, you should never have water with your meal. Other people or at meal times, other people are like, oh no, when you wake up in the morning, you should just have 1 liter of water straight away and you shouldn't have anything else. Other people say, no, it's fine to eat or drink with your food. The answer is, there isn't one answer. It actually depends on your body, and it depends on your level of stomach acid. So if you have a problem digesting food, or you haven't got enough stomach acid to help break down the food, then having water with your meals will further dilute that acid, which you will not further dilute, it will dilute the acid which you haven't actually got enough of. So it's not good. People also use water in a way to either the absence of or having it as a way to control how much they eat. Whether that's good or not is something that I guess you'll have to think about. But having too much water in one go isn't good, because the nutrients get flushed out. So yeah, please keep in mind that it's just not a straightforward answer. Oh, and also I've got this here. So if you can see this, that is a stick of charcoal. Literally, I use tap water. I don't like the taste of tap water, and I think a lot of people don't, and that's one reason they avoid it. So charcoal sticks are really good at filtering the water naturally, and then you can use it and you can decompose it, and you can put it in smelly shoes and do all cat litter and all sorts of things. And that's one way also of having a jug or something like that with the charcoal in it, if you have it in different places around your home, to encourage you to drink it if you don't drink much throughout the day. Okay, so the mind. So we've talked about, or we've been talking about the body so far, the mind. I'd like you to just spend a few seconds thinking about what you think you can do to help relax and quieten your mind. And if you can share it in the chat, I'll be very happy to receive your messages. And if not, that's also fine. Someone said they can't see the slides, Brian. They're on a mobile.
Yeah, can't do anything about that.
No. Okay. Sorry. To whoever that is. Yeah. And someone else, if someone's asking, should you eat dried beans? No, you should cook them first. Boil them, steam them, something, cook them. But yeah, dried beans are great, and they're better than the things that are in the tins, because you know that's like boiled in advance, then kept in preservatives and this and that. So yeah. In terms of the mind, I've got answers which are write in a journal, suggestions, meditation, meditation and creative writing. Another one says meditation, breathing exercises. Excellent. Okay, so yes, we need to find a way to calm the mind and maintain that calmness and eat well. So everyone's go-to to how to cultivate that calmness will be different. For some it will be meditation, for others it might be a focused activity like Sudoku or jigsaws or knitting or something, whatever it is, whatever works for you, find out what it is, and if possible, have a range of things that you know can help you focus, calm the mind, and quieten the mind, so that if one day you feel like, oh, I don't want to meditate today for whatever reason, and that's normally your go-to, then you've got a backup. So you're not just stuck with one strategy. So emotional stresses that are suppressed can manifest themselves physically. And that is one of the reasons why we need to look after our mind. So calming the mind down and quietening the mind doesn't mean suppressing everything. And that's why I've just brought that up. So it's important for our physical and emotional elements or being to be investigated, understood, and healed. So for example, some people who are stressed don't eat, so obviously that's going to have a physical impact on the body. Some people, when they're going through grief, might not talk about it, and then they end up having physical manifestations of the body basically crying out, saying, I need help, I need to discuss this, I need to heal. So yeah, so the mind and the body are very, very connected, and we need to look after both. Ways you can do that: emotional support. So your friends, family, strangers like the Samaritans who are volunteers, and you can call them up and talk about whatever it is that's on your mind. Your GP, counseling, hypnotherapy, and IAPT I've written here. So IAPT is, if you literally go to your browser, Google or whatever, and you put IAPT self-referral, it will bring you up with a website, and basically you can put, it asks you some questions, and then you basically state what's going on with you, and it's a way of referring yourself for talking therapies. And at the moment in Harrow, and I don't know if it's nationally, definitely in Harrow, they've got a goal to reach out to you within 2 weeks of you making the referral. So it's quite good, and it's worth doing something, one of these. I'm not specifically going on about IAPT, I'm just saying all of these things it's worth doing to get things out and get talking. Okay, so we've talked about what can make us physically unwell, what can stimulate us, how we can be dependent on certain foods and drinks, how that can affect our mood when we don't get them, how it can make us feel excited when we consume it and then crash, how food can drain and divert our energy, which is needed elsewhere, that can then make us ill because the body isn't getting done what it needs to get done. We've also looked at the need to minimize physical and emotional stress. We've talked about exercise and building it up slowly, but it's definitely necessary. And we've talked about ways to help calm the mind and deal with emotional stress. So what I was going to go through, which I'm not going to now, is the fact that I just touch on it, is the fact that our vegan lifestyle, so beyond food, so your hair, your cosmetics, your nail polish, your clothes, cleaning products, all that kind of stuff, that can also affect our well-being. So for example, if we feel guilty, this is the duality thing. So if we feel guilty after buying something made of silk, or feeling that we'll be judged because we've got suede shoes, or feeling misaligned, the duality thing, because we look at our leather furniture and remember how that leather came about, or we feel unsettled because of the fur on our coat might be real and we're not actually sure if it is real or not real, or we know it's real and that, or we feel icky when we remember the ingredients that have been used to make up our cosmetics. All of these things will affect our well-being, and that will have an impact on our health. So I am going to assume and hope that people who are connected today, wherever you're connected through to this talk, know why vegans wouldn't have buy silk or suede or leather or fur. And if you don't, feel free to contact me from my website, via my website, and I can send you some information. But these are the slides I'm going to skip. So that's what I was going to talk about, to do with shoes and clothes and all the rest of it.
We've got 12 minutes altogether,
How many?
So I
Sorry,
don't know,
Brian.
about 12 minutes until 8 o'clock. So I don't know
Yes.
how things are going. I
Yeah,
want to leave
cool.
some time for some Q&A, if we may.
Absolutely. Yes, cool. So all I was going to say is we have the power, we are empowered to stop funding the industries that use all this stuff that I just talked about. And here are some quick glance, and I can send this information to Brian later, of where you can get vegan clothes and bags and accessories for men and women. Same for voting with your feet, all these places that have vegan shoes. And this is why what vegan cosmetics, non-vegan cosmetics might have in it, and where you can get vegan cosmetics for men and women, and cleaning products. I know I'm skipping, I'm going very fast. I was going to talk about travel, I won't. So I'm just going to quickly share, these are the things that I do to keep my mind and body and spirit at their best. So I went dairy-free, plant-based, and then leading a vegan lifestyle since 2008. I abstain from a system that causes harm and death to animals, so that helps me feel better in terms of duality and my thinking and action. The reducing that violence brings me peace of mind. I have harmony between what I'm thinking and what I'm doing. I feel honest, that makes me happy. I eat well, I have a huge choice of food. I reduce my involvement in things that are destructive to the planet. I feel healthier. I'm minimalist, not completely, but I'm going towards that, and that feels liberating for me. I meditate daily and I sing, and that just brings me joy. So that's it. I'm going to stop talking now and over to you for some questions. These are the 2 recipe books I have, and I also offer coaching to help people go plant-based or vegan, or stay plant-based or vegan. But over to you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
I was going to say a big thank you, Heena. Do you want to mention about your book again, or you?
Oh, I'd love to.
Okay.
Yeah, just thank you. Just I've got 2 recipe books. One is an ebook, and do you know what? If I just share my screen, I'll show it to you very quickly. So yeah, I've got 2. Here it is. So this first one, The Way to a Vegan's Heart, is an ebook. It's on Amazon. It's a Kindle book. You don't have to have a Kindle. You just download the free app to access it. And that book is nothing but everything but desserts is the best way to explain it. So it's snacks, savory foods, light meals, soups, dinners, all the rest of it. And then this book, which I'm holding, literally I had printed just in November, and it's called Just Desserts. So it's everything, nothing else, just desserts. And the focus of this book, the one with all the savory options, is I wanted to show people how easy it is to cook from scratch, even if you're vegans, because there's a myth out there that if you're vegan, you're in the kitchen all hours of the day, every meal takes 2 hours, and it's just ridiculous, and I haven't got the time. So the majority of these meals from start to finish are less than 30 minutes, and the desserts, the majority of them take less than an hour. Some of them take something ridiculous like 5 hours, but actually it's not the dessert, it's the setting time. So it needs, time overnight in the fridge, so it looks like, oh my god, I haven't got that long, but yeah, you just need a bit of prep time, and then it actually doesn't take that long to make it. So yeah, that's available from my website if you're interested.
Thank you ever so much again for sharing. Thank you for your knowledge. I'm just going to close down the, actually before we can do, if you'd like to unmute everybody and just give a round of applause to Heena. Thank you. And I'll just hold on the recording.